Hey, good morning, Choice Residential. Hope your day's off to an awesome start. Today, I want to talk to you about how to have a conversation with the buyer about their home inspection report. The first thing is that conversation needs to start way before you and the buyer ever receive that home inspection report, way before you ever have the home inspection. You should be talking to the buyer about what to expect from the home inspection process the first time you meet them or when you have a buyer consultation. It needs to be early and often that you're talking about this because, as you know, at least during normal times, when there actually are some repair negotiations and buyers can actually walk away from transactions, the home inspection and repair negotiation process can be the most stressful and usually the number one reason why a buyer would walk away from a transaction. So you need to be talking early about this and preparing them about what to expect. One way to have this conversation is to remind them that the way home inspection reports read is as though the house is falling down, right? Home inspectors and the home inspection industry is highly litigated. They get sued a lot, right? Their insurance is very expensive. And the way that they structure and write their reports is often to protect them from a liability standpoint and to make their insurance provider happy. So the way that inspectors write their reports, if you just read it without any context, it's going to sound really terrible. That's why you need to have buyers showing up for the end of the inspection so they can review in person the findings and they can get the real transparent information that they need, not just reading the verbiage in the report. And you also need to remind them that inspectors are there to report on the 1% that's wrong with the house, not the 99% that's working great. So you got to keep it in perspective. But here's how you talk about the findings, the actual items on the inspection report. The way I like to do it is telling buyers that there are three types of items on the report. Number one is going to be something that is so catastrophic that even if the seller is willing to fix it, you're still going to walk away. Now, of course, you have to keep this in context with the way that current due diligence fees are. If your buyer has a $50,000 due diligence fee, well, that catastrophic item is going to be really catastrophic to make that buyer walk away from $50,000. If they have $1,000 in due diligence, it can be a little bit different. But when we're talking catastrophic, I mean, there's a sinkhole that has opened up under the house, right? Things that even if a seller decides they want to fix, your buyer is just not comfortable moving forward. Those types of items very rarely ever actually show up in a home inspection report. That is, if we're keeping things in perspective for our buyers. All right, the number two type of item is going to be something that is a really important find. There is something structurally wrong with the house. The heating and air is not working. There's something major that's going on. But as long as the seller is willing to either fix it or give you money for it, then you're willing to continue moving forward. Okay, there may be a couple of those items, one or two, depending on the property. There are sometimes there are going to be those items that show up. And Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, number three are going to be items that if we can negotiate either credits or repairs for the rest of the items, that's icing on the cake. Okay, those are things that are just part of home ownership, part of maintenance, some siding, some trim that needs to be repaired, doors that don't latch properly, leaks in faucets, leaks under sinks, things that are pretty easy to remedy, not a reason to walk away from a transaction. And the good news, Mr. and Mrs. Seller or Buyer, is that typically makes up 97 to 99% of the home inspection report. And so if you have that kind of conversation with them, you're preparing them in advance for how the inspection report is going to read, for the intent of the inspection, which is that it's not to create a to-do list for the seller. It's more to create a to-do list for the buyer after they close and move into the house. And then letting them know about the types of items that are going to show up on the report so that they can keep things in perspective. Because how many times have you had a buyer that gets all bent out of shape about $700 worth of siding repairs that are needed? And it's like, really, $700 worth of repairs on the $400,000 house you're buying when you've got $5,000 in due diligence? Clearly, that's not a reason to walk away, but buyers can get very emotionally charged. So the more you have prepared them leading up to that moment, the better that conversation is going to be and the easier that repair negotiation process is going to be. So hopefully this gives you some kind of tip or some kind of help for the next time you're having a conversation about inspection reports. And remember, it's relevant even in today's market where you're not really negotiating repairs. You still want that buyer to feel good about the house they're buying. and you don't want them to blow up after they have the home inspection and get that report back. So if you have other comments, thoughts, or tips for other agents, please share. We always love to hear what's working for you. And if you ever have questions or need me, I'm just a phone call away. Take care.